Okay, this is the third part of the Arduino garage door project, and a lot has changed. I tried to put the Arduino board into like a Home Depot one gang electrical outlet box, and it was too much. I still want to use the Uno board. I could go down to a smaller board, like one of the ESP boards, but for some reason I'm hung up on trying to use an Uno board. I tried to buy a weatherproof enclosure from Amazon, and that wasn't delivered. So it's been a little frustrating. You know, the original vision was this was going to go quickly. I could put it in a little box and go on my way and not spend a lot of money. It's way over budget, but I'm still committed to getting it completed. So it's been a while since I've done an update. Part two, things started to kind of change. I've moved away from RS-485. I think I know what caused my issues possibly with that. I might want to try and revisit that. I think I just needed to reinitialize the USB RS-232 adapter that I was using. But I've moved to RS-232. And my main holdup was the transmission of the communications, because I was trying to use twisted pair Ethernet, and it doesn't seem to be an issue. So I've in fact made those Ethernet adapters. So let me start there and talk about that. This is just a standard RS-232 USB cable right here. So you can see it's just a USB. And that plugs into this RS-232. Oh, I've got it screwed in. Connector that I have made. So this is like a plastic connector that you buy and you solder basically this side of it. You solder cables to it. I'm sorry, wires. I'm using just Ethernet wires. And on this side, kind of cool, I've got a keystone set up, a standard Ethernet keystone. So I have a Ethernet run out to the garage. My intention is to just use the Ethernet that's going to there as a elongated RS-232 cable. And then on the Arduino side, it is just this RS-232 to TTL adapter that will talk to the Arduino board. So on this side, there's going to be a similar setup. There'll be a keystone somewhere, and then this plugs in to there. Now, for RS-232, I only need three cables. I'm sorry, I only need three wires to communicate to this RS-232 adapter. And the reason is, from my research into this, it looks like there's no flow control with this adapter. And when you start to use flow control, that's when you start to use all the other pins that are part of the RS-232 DB9 standard. There's also like a DB25 standard. So luckily I'm able to get away with just a transmit, a receive, and a ground, which is pretty cool. So that's what I wired up in here. It's just three wires, transmit, receive, and ground. And then this is just all punched down on this side, but I'm only using the three here. And then when I go to build the one for the garage door, you know, this side will only have the three wires as well. All right, enough of that. I had done a previous project where I had a waterproof box and it came with this grid, and I finally have decided to use it. So what I have done, it might be hard to see, but I'm using standoffs in a couple of spots. So there's one screw, focus. Come on, focus. There's one screw in the Arduino board right here. It's hard to see because it's not focusing. And then another in the top left corner right up here. And if I can tilt this, you can see I have standoffs that I'm using. And these are 2.5 millimeter brass standoffs. I'm also using that now for this RS-232 board. And this is now pretty solid. Like, I have not had any of this stuff as solid as before, which is what I wanted. I wanted something kind of solid that is a little robust. The nice thing about this checkerboard pattern piece of plastic is it can fit into a weatherproof case. So if I do want to go back to having a weatherproof case with a clear front to show the LED lights, that's an option now. I can easily just buy another one of these and this just drops into that case. All these screws on the bottom are going to end up being a bus bar for my 5 volt, and then this is kind of like a ground bus bar. My intention is to solder a wire across all of these so that they're basically at the same potential. Or I might be able to use bolts. Nuts. Get it right eventually. Use some nuts on each one of these studs. The problem is this plastic piece right here. Focus. I cannot put a nut on these, so I think soldering just a jumper wire across all of these will work in my favor there. What else? These two I'm going to use as the positive and negative, if you will, for the reed switch, and then that's kind of like a terminal block. I like this. This is really pretty stout as far as getting it set up. On this terminal, I'm using 3.5, give me a second, 3 millimeter 6x6 standard standoffs that you would use with a computer case. So the Arduino one's a little smaller. Those are 2.5 millimeters. And then these are larger ones. These are regular PC standoffs. So I didn't want to get too far in without giving an update. But that's kind of where I'm going with this. And I kind of like the idea. There'll be more cable management in the future. This is just to get me back to a state where this is working. And then for the USB, I bought a right angle USB cable. And that will go in something like this, and I'll figure out if I want it in the back or in the front. I don't know if I'm going to abandon trying to put this in a waterproof case, maybe just mount this whole thing. Let me zoom out. No, I guess I can't zoom out that much. Let me see if I can do this. Mount just like this to the wall, or maybe I will just buy the case. Don't know. Trying to figure all that out. As far as these cables, these are like the Arduino stiff-ended cables. I'll probably end up cutting this. This wire is so thin I can actually probably cable manage this better and loop it through some of the holes here into the back. Kind of maybe clean up this bus bar, if you will. But yeah, as far as using this, I really like this. I wish they sold this as just a like prototyping sheet that you could set this up. This is pretty cool, and I like the ability to use things like CPU standoffs. They're pretty ubiquitous. They're pretty cheap to buy. The 2.5 millimeter ones were a little bit more expensive. But yeah, anyway, that's the update for now. I'll do another one once I get a little farther along. Thanks.